Hi class, welcome to biology. So in this first lesson, you're going to learn what you share in common with this cute little creature with this squished-in face, and also what you share in common with other organisms as different from you as this flower. So what do all three of us have in common? So first you're going to learn some vocabulary for the parts that make up living organisms and our environment as a whole. Then we will talk about the shared characteristics between living organisms. And lastly, you will learn how scientists classify or group organisms and name them according to their similarities and differences. All right, so first let's talk about some of these parts of life. And throughout the year, you're going to learn not just about the parts themselves, but how they interact together as a whole and what properties emerge when we look at the bigger picture. So in chemistry, you learned that everything, including yourself, is made up of atoms and molecules. And in this picture, we have the DNA molecule, which carries our genetic information. Then moving on to the cell is the structural and functional unit of life. It is the smallest unit that is considered alive. And some organisms are made up of just a single cell, while others, like yourself, are made up of multiple cells. Then a tissue is made up of multiple cells that are the same and work together to carry out the same function. And here is a picture of cardiac muscle tissue, which makes up the walls of your heart. Then an organ is made up of multiple tissues that interact together to carry out a related function. And the example here is the heart, which is made up of cardiac muscle tissue and nervous tissue. Then an organ system is made up of multiple organs that interact together, again, to carry out a related function. And here in this example, we have the circulatory system. And you also have the digestive system, the respiratory system, and so on. So moving on to the bigger levels of life, here we have a multicellular organism. Then a population is made up of multiple individuals of the same species that live in a particular geographic area. So in this example, this group of elephants in a specific nature reserve in Africa, they're that nature reserve's population of elephants. Or you could have the population of squirrels, say, on your school campus. Then a community is made up of multiple populations of different species, again, in a particular geographic area. So here in this nature reserve, the community is made up of the giraffes, the elephants, the trees, the grasses, any birds and insects, any bacteria living in this water or the soil. All the living components of this area are considered its community. Then an ecosystem takes into account both the living, the community, and the non-living components of a particular area. So this nature reserve is an ecosystem that's made up of the giraffes, the elephant, the trees, the insects, as well as the water, the rocks, the air, and their physical and chemical properties. Or an ecosystem could also be a specific river, a lake, a forest. I hope you get the idea. And then lastly, we have the biosphere, which simply put is just our Earth. So there is only one biosphere, and I hope you will learn to appreciate it throughout this year. So next, let's talk about the shared characteristics of all living organisms. So all of life is composed of cells. Life is also organized, like you can see in this beautiful photo of the aloe plant. Now, to become organized, life requires energy. Energy is necessary to build organized cells, tissues, organs, and so on. So the ultimate source of energy for almost all living things on Earth is the sun. The energy in sunlight is captured by organisms we refer to as producers. Producers can take the energy in sun and use it to create food. And producers are plants, algae, and other organisms that you're going to learn about. Then consumers, they need to eat producers or other consumers for their source of energy. So consumers includes animals as well as fungi and some other life. So some animals eat plants, other animals eat other consumers as their source of energy. Life also carries out metabolic reactions. Here you have an illustration of one of the most important chemical reactions on this planet, and that is photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants take carbon dioxide, water, and the energy in sunlight to build organic molecules such as sugars and give off oxygen. But there are many other biochemical reactions. Metabolism simply refers to all of the biochemical reactions that take place in cells. Living organisms also all have the ability to respond to their environment. They can respond to external signals from the environment, such as this orchid plant changing its growth to bend towards the sunlight so that it can take so it can absorb the maximum amount of sunlight. Organisms can also respond to internal signals and regulate their internal environment, such as here these ostriches regulating their internal body temperature. You're going to learn quite a bit about something called homeostasis. Homeostasis is the ability to maintain a steady internal state. Now remember, it's not just animals that can do this. All living things can regulate their internal environment. All of life also requires a genetic program. Now, all the life that we know about has DNA as the molecule that carries our genetic information. It carries all of the information to make a living thing, what it looks like, how it functions, everything about it is stored in the DNA molecule. DNA also has the ability to transmit that genetic information onto the next generation. Life also has the ability to reproduce and grow. Like you can see in this pretty cool video of bacteria dividing to make more bacteria. Life also has the ability to adapt to its environment over time. Now, this is not the same as responding to an environmental cue at a particular moment in time. No, this is over a long period, an entire species having the ability to change to be better adapted to its environment. Like you can see in this example, we have two fox species. The Arctic fox has a white fur color that allows it to blend really well into its snowy environment. Whereas the red fox that lives in temperate forests are ones that have deciduous trees that shed leaves in the fall. So the red fox, its coloring is ideal for blending into the shadows of such a forest. So this process of change in a species over a long period of time is referred to as evolution. And one of the ways that it happens is by the means of natural selection. So let's get the difference between these two terms straight. Evolution is what happens to a species over a period of time, and natural selection is how it happens. So how might have natural selection given us today's Arctic fox? Imagine that these circles represent a population of foxes. And just through variation in their DNA, some might be born with darker fur, and some might be born with white or light-colored fur. Now, if these foxes are living in a deciduous or temperate forest that's darker with shadows, the darker foxes might be at an advantage, whereas the white and other light-colored ones would be at a disadvantage. They might stand out too much and not survive long enough to reproduce and pass on their gene for white fur to their children. But now, imagine that this population migrates up north to the Arctic. Suddenly, these darker foxes are at a disadvantage and the lighter ones have an advantage. They'd be more likely to reproduce and have more children and pass on their DNA for lighter fur. So over a long period of time, over multiple generations, you'd have much fewer of the darker foxes and more of the lighter ones. And we go a number more generations, and even a bigger percentage of the population now has white fur and others are light, until eventually the 100% of this population has the white fur that we're familiar with today. So evolution has given us the incredible diversity of life on this planet. And here in this slide, I just put a picture of a selection of the different fox species that are alive on Earth today, each living in a different environment, and they're very well adapted for the particular environment that they live in.